Welcome to Captions. So glad you joined us, and I hope you brought some of your friends along with you. Tonight we're going to be covering a Southtown TiF meeting that was held by Councilman Clyde Gully, where they talk about some of the needs and some of the preferences in terms of how those who live in Southtown would like to see the city spend TIF funds.
Basically, TIF is a tool. It's probably the most powerful tool that a municipality in the state of Illinois has to do redevelopment of their projects. There's other things you might hear about, like enterprise zones or industrial revenue bonds or river's edge zones, but to be honest, the tax increment financing law is the most powerful and flexible tool that a city has to do redevelopment. And the whole idea behind it is to have a kind of a cycle that we are able to use public investment to drive private investment that increases property values so that there's more money available for more public investment. So it's kind of that cycle that we try to work through. TIF in a nutshell. These are just kind of some of the definitions. A TIF district is a geographic area established by law. It has to meet certain criteria for eligibility. Those criteria are set out in the law. It has a lot to do with deteriorated properties, obsolete uses, bad platting, which is kind of a land use patterns, we'll call it. Other sorts of things like that are defined in the law. And the city council establishes, we have to have a study that's done that establishes that it meets the conditions of the law, and then the city council approves it. A TIF runs for 23 years unless it's ended early. After the 23 years, and this is actually the case in Southtown, which was started in 1978, the city can actually petition the Illinois General Assembly to extend the TIF for up to 12 more years, so a total of 35 years in a TIF. The base is the total amount of property taxes or property value in the area at the time the TIF was established. And then the increment is that the increase in that value over the life of the TIF. So in this case, we're going on the 33rd year of property tax increase. So the property tax, the value of the homes, the property in a TIF are frozen. In this case, in 1978, were frozen. You continue to pay taxes to all the taxing authorities based on that property value, and then as the value of the property increases, the new taxes that are paid paid into what's called the TIF fund, which is this pot of money. The city sets up a separate account in this case for the Southtown TIF, and then we can use that money for certain eligible costs. There's about 17 different categories of eligible costs for the TIF money, so we can't use it for just anything. All right, so that's kind of some basic definitions. The idea, obviously, is to create opportunities for new development. So if you see here, the TIF date starts, you generally see declining property values. In Southtown, in 1978, between 1977 and 1978, property tax value declined 4%. So it was an area of declining property tax values. At that point, it was frozen. The base taxes that were being paid continue to be paid to the school district, to the city. And then as the city was able to increase investment in the area, those new property taxes were collected. When it ends, and in this case in 2013, all of the taxes, the base plus the increment, will all be sent back to all of the taxing authorities, from the school district to the library, airport, everybody like that. The city of Peoria has 10 TIF districts. You might not be able to see some of that. Our newest TIF district is the East Village Growth Cell TIF district. I think it was passed in last year. Our oldest one is the one we're in, is Southtown. And then also Central Business District TIF, which covers most of downtown and the riverfront. Other ones you hear a lot about are the Warehouse District and Eagle View, which is the one way to the south. That's kind of encompasses Harrison Homes and also the area around Darst and Clark and the recycling facilities. Most of our TIFs are contiguous to each other. They touch one another. And we do that, or one of the reasons that that gets done, or when it happens, is that then we can use money from one to the other, which is one of the reasons that we're talking tonight. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood what the boundaries of the Southtown TIF were, so that when we get to the second part of this meeting, which is the important part of understanding what the community would like to see done, that we understand what we're talking about when we're talking about Southtown. So we have maps up around the room as well, but for those of you who, and many of you probably know this, but it's roughly bordered by the Bluff, MacArthur, Jefferson, and then Cumph and Main Street on the, I guess, on the northeast side. Southtown progress. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to see this map? Well, it's on the back of your agendas as well. Everyone didn't get an agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not going to try to figure out that. All right, so this is MacArthur Avenue here. All right, we're sitting right here in the Frank Campbell Community Center, inside of Southtown TIF. All right, so here's Jefferson Street, the stadium, and then Cumph. Here's the Civic Center as kind of a point of reference. And then all the way up here, kind of up Main Street to where the University of Illinois College of Medicine is, and then kind of jags along the bluff here. So kind of different streets, but is that a little bit more clear? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And so also
all of the University of Illinois College of Medicine is inside the TIF.
okay, and River West.
All of not River West South, so not across MacArthur Street, but the main portion of River West. This is the North Side Business Park, TIF. This kind of where O'Brien Steel and Komatsu are. This is the North Riverside TIF, and that is where PMP and Solazyme are. This is the Central Business District TIF. It's all of the downtown and riverfront. This one that is largely adjacent to Southtown is the Warehouse District TIF in yellow. We just spoke of this. This is the Hospitality Improvement Zone TIF. This kind of purplish blue one, that's the East Village Growth South. That little itty bitty green one you see up there is Midtown Plaza, where the Cub Foods used to be. The building's still there. And then this one down here in pink is what we call Eagle View. It's kind of the southern gateway. And I will be the first to admit, I'm not a Peorian. I was not here in 1978 when this started, and I've only worked for the city for 6 years. So a lot of my understanding of this is from talking to other folks and trying to do some reading to understand where things have been and where they are. But when you read the redevelopment plan from 1978 and you see what they said they were going to do, much of it has been done. A lot of the street grid looks the way that they said it was going to be, and these are just some of the infrastructure improvements that were done. All of the property was basically purchased, homes, residents and businesses were relocated, and the property was cleared and assembled for sale to other folks. Many of the streets were reconstructed. A lot of them were removed. The old street grid was removed. There were new water and gas mains. All of the overhead electrical lines were undergrounded. And so that was some of the infrastructure improvements. Some of the investments that have been made, some of the things, obviously, that have come to Southtown since that time. There are medical things like the College of Medicine, the Illinois Medical Center, which is that large medical complex right near Main Street. Triumph Hospital, which is it's changed name a couple of times, but it's the long-term acute care hospital. We've had commercial things, obviously the Caterpillar. I don't think they refer to it as the training center anymore, but the Caterpillar facility on Jefferson, individual businesses like Kirby Risk and Cranes and Equipment. We've had housing projects. So many of you are here from Spring Grove. Also River West, which we're standing in right now. Actually, $3 million of TIF funds went into the development of River West. Benai Brith and Hurlbut House, a couple of those bigger apartment complexes on the north side of the TIF. We've seen social services and educational services. Valeska Hinton was built with many of the TIF funds. the Peoria Housing Authority's main offices, Red Cross, and then we have modest amount of retail, Valley Park Commercial Center, and then also the Staybridge Suites Hotel is within the TIF.
Are you suggesting that all of those investments have used some parts of the TIF fund?
No, actually most of them haven't. Most of them obviously benefited from the fact that the city had assembled the land and was able to sell them lands in large chunks. So they certainly benefited from being in the TIF. Most of these outfits, corporations or organizations, have not received a rebate of their property taxes or have used the TIF increment. A few have. The Peoria Cancer Center did. Illinois Medical Center had we helped build their parking deck. The Peoria Cancer Center, we helped build that building through the educational part. Caterpillar didn't. I read through a couple of the redevelopment agreements today, like Platinum Orthopedics and Staybridge Suites. They didn't get any incentive other than they bought the land from the city. I imagine maybe at a reduced price to what they might have bought on the open market. But no TIF increment was used for many of these projects.
Second question, among the medical group, how many of them are tax generators?
The Triumph Hospital is a tax generating facility, property tax generating facility. The Illinois Medical Center office complex is private, and it is, even though it is on the Illinois College of Medicine campus, it actually pays property taxes. I couldn't swear to all of the various medical offices, but my guess is I know that Platinum Orthopedics is a for-profit tax-paying organization. Right? Red Cross is not. Red Cross is a nonprofit organization. Just to give you an idea of what's happened in Southtown, this is kind of that same slide that I showed you earlier with some information. In 1978, the total value of the property in Southtown, this is actually what's called equalized assessed valuation, so it's not the full market value, but it's the taxable value of the property, was right around $4 million in 1978. In 2000 and, this is actually a 2011 number, it's now $33.5 million, so an 863% increase in property values in the TIF area. To give you a comparison, over basically that same amount of time, the property in the city of Peoria, inside of District 150's portion of Peoria, the property taxes increased by less than 115%. The last number I had was from 2008, and the difference was 103%. So I'll give them credit for an extra couple of years. So it has outpaced the growth of the general growth in property value over the last 32 years that it's been here. So in 2013, when this TIF ends, all of that value will be taxed, just like it's being taxed now. Nobody's paying extra taxes because they're in the TIF. Will be, instead of captured by the TIF fund for use within the TIF, will be taxed just like my house is on the West Bluff, or those of you who live outside the TIF on the south side or the north end or the north side of Peoria will be split amongst the taxing authorities. So here's the part that we need to start talking about, and I'm going to turn this over to Councilman Gully. This is the budget, and these are the revenues, and the budget and the forecast for the Southtown TIF between now and its end. The current balance is $2.8 million. That means there's $2.8 million in the fund right now that can be spent for TIF eligible expenses. And I'm going to talk about what's TIF eligible in just a second. I'm kind of trying to give you the parameters so that when Councilman Gully and Councilman Turner facilitate the community input portion, you kind of understand where the boundaries are here.